a part of consciousness, or that they are conscious. Okay. But a lot of people are just not tuned into their awareness. That's all. Okay. And we've gone over this, in other forms, when we talk about societal hypnosis. Okay. The hypnosis that society is under. Okay. So, for example, we're not going to get, good morning, Janice. Hey, there's Janice. We're not going to get into specifics because the algorithms don't like when we come out with hard facts about things, okay? Or when we kind of lift the veil for you, okay? So we're not going to do that, okay? Well, we're not going to lift any veils today, but we will tell you that when you can see, when your eyes are open, and when you can see things for what they actually are, instead of what you would like them to be or what society tells you to think of them. Society shows you something, right? So I'm talking about media, I'm talking about education, I'm talking about all these things. Because as human beings, you are very susceptible to information. And the repetition of that information into your subconscious becomes repetition in the subconscious. It becomes a belief. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. And you can change your beliefs, which is why we teach you this for manifestation purposes. Because if you are aware, okay, awareness, if you are aware that you can bring anything into your world as long as you shift the belief in your subconscious first, okay, because God only knows what's in your subconscious, only affects what's in your subconscious, only accentuates what's in your subconscious, only acts off of what is in your subconscious. And when you know these things and you can take control of it yourself, life changes. Okay? Life changes. And why is this? Because you can choose. Okay? You don't want this thing happening, but it keeps happening. Why? Because it's subconscious. So now we can rewrite the belief, we can reestablish a belief, and now what? Now it doesn't happen anymore. I had to learn this. I had to do this. I don't want to really say I had to learn the hard way, but it was the hard way. In the way that repetition kept happening. So drama kept happening. Bad things kept happening. That was the story of my 20s until I was about 27. And then it was one day at a time. And it was like, okay, all right, we'll do this one day. So my first mentor was like that. And he said, okay, can you do this for one day? I'm like, yeah. And then the next day, okay, that was great. Can you do it tomorrow? Yeah. Next day, can you do it tomorrow? And I was like, oh, we're doing one day at a time. And then that turned into a week, turned into a month, turned into 5 years, 10 years, turned into a life. But it was a life of control. Okay, it was a controlled life. It was a calculated life, a deliberate life. You can live a deliberate life. Not everybody's aware that you can do that. Okay, people think that they're subject to their circumstances. Okay, but it's the opposite way around. Your circumstances are subject to you. Okay, not the other way. Some people think like, well, I can't do that. Why? Well, because of this, because of this, because of this. And those are all logical explanations. Those things are all logical things. Well, I can't do this because I'm in, I'm in this association. You just can't do that. I need to go through the gatekeeper because, well, that's how they do it. Oh, is any of that true? No. If that were true, I would not have done half of the things that I've done because I didn't have to kowtow to the gatekeepers. I didn't have to bow to anybody. Why? Because I'm powerful? No, I'm not powerful. Okay? But God is powerful and God is in here. Okay? God is the power. So when you look at consciousness versus awareness, okay, so what are we talking about? Consciousness is the field. Conscious is the energy field. Everything in the universe is energy. Consciousness is the field. Good morning, Miss Sunshine. Good morning, guys. Consciousness is the field that we operate within. Awareness is who we are. Okay, you are awareness. And you are aware. But your awareness gets directed. Your awareness gets persuaded. Your awareness gets influenced. That's why they call it influencers on social media. I was an influencer long before social media was invented. I'm not here to influence. I'm here to educate. I'm here to inform. I'm here to show you, right, some things that maybe you think you knew, maybe you kind of heard before, but you're like, what's that all about? Okay, manifestation is subconscious. Okay, manifestation is not magic. It's not voodoo. It's not a special power. It's not something some people have and some people don't. Everybody has manifestation abilities, but there's a process to it. And first, you have to cleanse. And I'm talking about energetic cleanse, which is what the vocalization exercises do. Okay, first you have to cleanse. There's a lot of people who get in trouble first with certain things, drugs or alcohol abuse or whatever, bad stuff. And it keeps happening over and over and over. And then they go to a program or a therapist. And then things start working out for a while. And then what happens? Well, you hear these people, well, I had a what do they call it? I've never been to those programs. I've never had those problems, but what do they call those? A relapse. They have a relapse. There you go. Okay, sorry, I got to do this in real time. So they have a relapse and they go back to the addiction or back to the whatever was causing the problem. Why is that? Because they didn't fix their subconscious. Their subconscious went unattended. They just went to therapy. What does therapy do? Well, it accomplishes some things, but it doesn't fix your subconscious. It addresses causes sometimes, and it addresses symptoms most of the time. So it's like if you get a cut and you're using a Band-Aid versus a tourniquet. Sometimes you need a tourniquet, but you're using a Band-Aid, and you keep having to put Band-Aids and Band-Aids and Band-Aids and Band-Aids. You don't put a tourniquet on there. You don't get stitches, whatever. It's temporary, and then what happens? You need more temporary stuff. And what's happening in the world today? A lot of fear for people that don't understand what's going on. Do you have to understand what's going on? No. What do you have to understand? You have to understand that you can be in the world and not of the world. You can be in a system and not of the system. You can be independent, and actually you are independent of everything. You have to focus on your life path. When you focus on your life path, you're focusing on your awareness inside of consciousness. Because you have a life path. Your life path comes like this. It unfolds for you. Life happens for you. Okay? When you're not, let's say, aware of the kingdom within, Jesus Christ said the kingdom is within. But if you're, let's say, distracted or influenced into thinking that your solutions are out here, your solution is at the doctor's office, your solution is in college, your solution is in the system or in the group or in the association or in the whatever it is, in the physical world. It's not. It's in the spiritual world. Okay, I had to learn this lesson because in my 20s, I thought everything was out here. And I was chasing everything out here. And my mentor was trying to tell me, every time I would do something, he goes, what about God? And I was like, what about God? Right? And it doesn't matter how much, let's say, Bible study you have. Doesn't matter how much temple study you have or synagogue study you have. It depends on what you're studying and who's teaching and the way they're teaching it. Because you're either learning esoteric knowledge or you're learning exoteric knowledge. Exo, outside, exoteric, outside, outer knowledge. That's what they feed the masses. Esoteric knowledge, inner knowledge, the true meanings of things. In vocabulary, it would be the etymology of words, not the definition of words. Okay? Because when you look in a law dictionary, the legal definitions are completely different. But that's pertaining to law. Okay? When you look at the etymology of words, it shows you the origins. So you can study the roots, or you could study the tree, or you could study the leaves. If you're not studying the roots, guess what? You're just believing the story. You're caught up in the story. Okay? You're caught up in the window dressing. You're caught up in the production of things. So as awareness, what does that do? Not very much. Why? Because you become desensitized. Your awareness becomes desensitized. And that's what we were talking about with societal hypnosis. So now you keep up with the Joneses. Now you follow the crowd. Now you go with the flow, with the people that do whatever it is they do. Whoever it is, there's so many groups, right? There's a football people, okay, you go and follow football, and now you're a fan, and now you have a team, and now the whole thing is football. None of it is wrong. None of it is wrong. It is what it is. But it is what it is for you, okay? But to understand that, oh, I can go here if I want to go here. I can do this if I want to do this. I can have, do, or be anything, basically. But when you're conditioned into believing that you can only do this, only do this, only do this, you know, like, oh, only rich people can do this. Oh, only crazy people do this. Only whatever. Football fans do this. whatever it is, okay? No. No, the kingdom is within. A belief is a thought you keep thinking, so what do you believe? Because your life stems out of your beliefs. Whatever it is you believe. And everybody's different. Everybody's perception is different. So your awareness is constructed in part out of your beliefs, out of your perception. How do you get out of this system of things? Okay, Jesus Christ talked about it. He said, I will be with you until the end of these systems of things. He didn't say end of the world. I know it's in the Bible as end of the world. I know the world's not going anywhere. You're going. I'm going. We're going. But the world isn't going anywhere. Okay? But the system of things gets changed. It gets modified. It gets more sophisticated. Look at the last 10 years. Look at the last 20 years, if you've been alive that long. Okay? Look at the history. If you don't know where we've been, you don't know where we're going. And now look at where we're going. But Jesus will be with you through these systems of things. What does that mean? That means in here. That means in here. God is with you inside. Okay? You have the power in here for whatever system there is. It doesn't matter. Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. Hey, Trish. Trish in Tampa, Florida. How you doing? Welcome. I'm in Honolulu, Hawaii. welcome to our chat. You can ask me any questions or make any comments that you want. So, these systems of things have rules, they have parameters. These systems of things have procedures. So, I was going through this journey of mine. I went through this journey. Did I struggle? Yeah, I struggled. Okay. Why did I struggle? Well, because I thought that I wanted to go to a certain place, and to go to that certain place, I had to do certain things. I didn't learn how to properly do it until 2007, and I had already become popular in Hawaii. I thought that part was lucky. I thought it involved luck. I thought, the doors finally open. I got lucky, okay? So I'll pause here and tell you a famous quote, give you a famous quote from Dr. Armand Hammer. Barbara Walters, who is a famous American. Why am I throwing up Freemason hand sign? I'm not a Freemason. This is not a Freemason hand sign. Sorry. This is a Freemason. This is a Freemason hand sign. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not doing that. And I'm not a Freemason. So yeah. Thank you, love, grace, mercy. Okay. So anyway, all right. Barbara Walters is a famous American interviewer, and she was very popular in the 80s. And so I watched this interview that she did with Dr. Armand Hammer. And if you research Dr. Armand Hammer, he's a very famous entrepreneur and CEO. And he was a CEO, and he had amassed a fortune. And so she was, and he also was with world leaders, political leaders. And he also was very, very famous, right? So he knew all these people and whatever. So she interviewed him, and she said, "Do you consider yourself lucky?" And his answer, and I'll never forget this, he said, "When you work 16 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're bound to get lucky." And I never forgot that, okay? But here's what I did. Right? I started working 16 hours a week, 7 days a week, for a long, long time, until I went down the rabbit hole in 2007. So that part in my life in 1999 where my career went like that through the roof, okay, that opened the doors for other things, which was the catalyst for my other companies. I already had a company. I had a production company and a singing school. We already had a commercial space, all of those things. And then everything took off. Okay, so I had things going on. It wasn't like, that thing that happened, my career, my entertainment career. It's not like, that happened and everything happened. No, I did a lot before that. But up until that time, even in 1989, I started my school. But even before that, in 1999, the publicity thing came, the notoriety came in 99. In 89, 10 years before that, I started my school. I started teaching. And before that, there was struggle. Okay? But there was struggle because the struggle was here. Okay? So just know that the struggle is always here. Okay, it's how you see things. It's how you interpret information. Okay. Going to college doesn't fix it. Okay, it doesn't fix it. Because I work with people who have multiple degrees. Last year I had a person who had 3 degrees, and a person who had a law degree and a MBA. So she did the MBA on the side. I worked with a nurse that had a master's degree in organizational change. Everything I told them was like, wow, like it was news to them. They were like, whoa, really? I'm like, yeah, the kingdom is within. And this was all brand new to them. In other words, they were chasing the physical world. They were chasing things in the physical world, that imaginary ladder to success. Okay, it's imaginary, but it's part of the physical world. And in that process, you do things that are required in the physical world. Is there another way to do it? Yeah, in here. Okay? Because everything in here is important for everything out here to react to. Consciousness responds to awareness. They work hand in hand, but consciousness is the field. Okay? Awareness is where attention is placed within consciousness. Where are you placing this awareness? So some people are aware, they're aware that they're spiritual beings. They're told that they're spiritual beings. They go to church and they sit in the congregation. And then there's somebody behind a pulpit, okay, who professes to know the will of all creation. Yeah, I know. That's a stretch, right? Okay. Because they've been taught. And the person who taught them had a teacher. And it kind of goes back, right? But these people receiving the information go, okay, yes, I'm a spiritual being, okay. And then after the service, because they may feel that in the service, because they feel good in the service. That's what the service is, okay? It's that emotional band-aid. And then what happens? Well, then they go back to the clock. Then they go back to the calendar. Then they go back to the mouse wheel. Then what happens? Then they get cemented back into the physical world. Why? Because they need to make a living. Because they need a job. Because. When in actuality, what really happens is everything out here reacts to everything in here. And all you have to do is make a few fundamental changes in here, and this opens up. Okay? When awareness is worked on, okay? When you work on your awareness, when you wake up from what? Wake up from your deep sleep. Because you're in consciousness, but you're sleeping, you're sleepwalking. Why is that? Because 95% of your life is subconscious. It's automatic. You don't have to put any thought into 95% of your life. No thought. You get up, brush your teeth, take a shower, go to work, do your job, come home. All of those things you know. You know all of those things. You know how to do everything. You know how to do your job very well. You may be the best at what you do at your job. You ever hear somebody say, well, I know this so well, I can do it in my sleep? They can do it in their sleep. Why? Because it's all committed to their subconscious. Dr. Joe Dispenza says it a different way. He said, your body can do it better than you. When you have this knowledge, what do? Some people have this knowledge and they're still reactionary to life. Okay? They're still dodging life like this. They're still like this with life. Okay? But life is like this. Life is unfolding for them. But they think life is happening to them. So they're dodging bullets all the time. They're dodging things. They're dealing with circumstances that they perceive to be coming at them. Life is doing this to me, that to me, this to me, that to me. That's victim mentality. Life happens like this. Life unfolds for you. Life pays attention to you. based upon your awareness. Because you can be aware of, okay, I'm a spiritual being, but how do I use it? You can be aware that in your garage you have a Ferrari and not know how to drive it. And maybe take it out on the weekends to go here and there and not really take full advantage of it. Just, it looks good. It's really, really fast. I'll just take it really slow and whatever, and like that. So consciousness is the field. Some people look at the field as God. So we say the superconscious. Conscious, subconscious, superconscious. The superconscious is awareness. The superconscious is the field. The superconscious is God, Jesus Christ, Allah. It is that. It is what you call upon. It is what works with the subconscious. God only works with the subconscious. That's it. Because if in your subconscious you have a belief that counteracts what you're praying for, that counteracts what you're wishing for, that counteracts what you seek to manifest in your world, in life, it cannot happen. Does that mean your bank account's going to fill up with millions of dollars? No. There's two ways of wealth. Spiritual world, or physical world, spiritual world, okay? How do you do it in the physical world? Well, you save these pieces of paper that they've assigned a value to, that nothing backs up except air, okay? So there's that. And if we put all of these in an account, the numbers keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger, longer and longer, more zeros and zeros. And now we feel good. Why? Well, because the numbers are there. Okay. That's one way. But in order to do that, what happens? You have to make sacrifices. Okay, well, I cannot wear good clothes. Okay, I cannot have this. I cannot have that. Cannot. You're living in lack. Now you've put a little imaginary boundary around your life. Why? Well, because these numbers over here in the account are important, but they're not based on anything. They have no value but perception. So the more zeros I have, I'm winning, right? Perhaps. But you're partaking in the physical world. You're trading your energy. You're trading this. Whatever you want to call the kingdom within. You want to call it soul. You want to call it spirit. You want to call it energy. You're trading that for meaningless paper. You're on the mouse wheel. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Wash, rinse, repeat. Monday through Friday, you go to a 1040 job. Okay. Some of them are very good jobs. Some of them are very prestigious jobs. I coach professionals. A lot of them, when their eyes become open, they're disillusioned. Why? Well, because what they thought was, when they get there, what they thought before they started the journey, when they were in law school, when they were getting their degree, when they were putting hours and hours and hours into something, when they were working hard to get where they're going. And then they get there, and then they go, oh, my job description is just these few things. And sometimes, right, and more so now because of automation, but sometimes, a freshman in high school could do this job. But you've put in the time. You've gone through the education. And now when you get there, your job description is very, very simple. Sometimes. At the executive level. And sometimes Okay, simple in the way that you don't need so much input. You don't have so much leeway. You follow the job description. Then you become disillusioned. Why? Because, well, you could be doing more. After all, you have all these degrees that you're not using, that you don't apply to what you're doing. Oh, but that's the corporate world. Is anything wrong with that? No. But you need to see it for what it really is. And when you do, and when you wake up, you go, oh. So the first thing is, right? The truth will set you free. But in that process, it'll be disappointing at first, okay? Because it's not what you've been told. The journey is not as it presents itself to you, the perceived ladder of success or whatever. Okay, there is no ladder of success. But you create your own opportunities. I just did a podcast on that. It comes out on Monday. It comes out 9 a.m. on Monday on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify. I don't normally push all my stuff, but yeah, I have a podcast. Check it out. Okay, it's a Law of Attraction comedy podcast. Now, the Law of Attraction is just like attracts like. But it's subconscious. Manifestation is subconscious. But awareness becomes curbed. Awareness becomes like this when it's conditioned, when you are conditioned. But when you break the conditioning, when you break the hypnosis, when you venture out of the facade and you see things for what they really are, at first it's frightening. At first it's like, oh my God. And then it becomes empowering. Why? Because you realize that everything out here reacts to everything in here. And all you have to do is change a few things in here, tweak a few things in here, right? Seek in here. And then your eyes open. Because your eyes can't open if you're in it. If you're stuck in it, day after day after day, following the clock, following the program, following the schedule, following the parameters, okay? Hey, that's my client. Wait a minute, let me see. Yeah, that's Marlene. Good morning, Marlene. Good morning. One of my clients on the chat from California. So I see people from all over the world, from Europe, from the United States, from Hawaii, all over the world. And they all have one thing in common. They're all stuck in the program. They're stuck in the matrix. Where's the matrix? The matrix is here. It's been projected onto you. And you follow along because this has been done from day one. So your first 12-step program is first grade through 12. It's a 12-step program. There's a reason why it's 12. Why isn't high school 10 years? Why isn't that program 13 years? No, it's 12. There's 12 months in the year. There were 12 apostles. 12, 12, 12. 12-step program. There's 12 people on a jury. Why? Because it takes 12 to bring the truth to light. Esoteric knowledge. Check it out. But awareness, when awareness happens, okay, at first you get kind of discouraged. You go, wow, oh, okay. It's pretty harsh. Yeah, because nothing in the world works the way you think it does. Nothing. Is that a good thing or bad thing? It depends on how you use it. Okay, it's like this pen. Okay, I can use it to write my affirmation, which will empower me. I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm confident. Thank you. Or I can take this pen, you see, I'm just saying. It doesn't matter what it is. It matters how you apply it. Knowledge in itself is useless unless you apply it. It's the application of knowledge that's power. Knowledge is not power. I know you've been told that. Knowledge is useless because if it sits here and you've just accumulated it over your lifetime and you take it to the grave, oh well. I hope you had fun. So back in 2020, I'll give you some background, right? And the background was that my mentor had taught me from age 13 and worked with my first mentor, worked with me years and years and years. It was my uncle. It was my mom's youngest brother. He was a Vietnam vet. Very spiritual man, very gifted man. And right around, I think it was about right before I retired from entertainment, around 2018, we were having a glass of wine. And we're just, kicking back, uncle and nephew type thing, And I looked over at him and I said, Uncle, like, I am so grateful for everything you've done. Like, my life has changed because of you. But all that stuff that you told me, all that stuff you taught me, all that esoteric knowledge stuff, all that who runs the world and all this kind of stuff and all that conspiracy stuff. I said, none of this will ever happen in my lifetime. None of this will ever happen in my lifetime. Because he wanted to open my eyes, right? And without missing a beat, he looked at me and he goes, oh no, you watch. And then 2020 happened. I had been life coaching since 2010. So Here For You Life Coaching was founded in 2010. Because of what we discovered in the vocalization process that started waking people up, that started snapping people out of this societal hypnosis, which started making them more conscious, which started giving them a heightened sense of awareness, which then empowered them. And we had to give it to the everyday person as well as the people that were using their voice for singing and acting and presentations, things that you use your voice for. So when 2020 happened, I said, all right, it's time to go to social media and start teaching. And we started teaching on this platform over here. And people came to my sites in droves. I have 151,000 people on this platform here. We don't like to say because other algorithms will push us out. But if you look for my international account, go and search social media. It's the big one. My Facebook has about 54,000, very small. But we just started teaching on it this year. So you can be in the system and think you belong to the system and think you need to follow the system, think you need to play by the system's rules. There are certain rules you need to follow. You need to pay your taxes, you need to observe speed limits, you need to observe those things, those laws, those rules. But inside all of that, you are this one. Inside all of that, you have a life path, and you will attract what it is that is meant for you. You attract who you are. Do you attract what you want? Yes, you can. Can you do it deliberately? Yes, you can. How do you do that? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. How do you do that? Through your subconscious. You have a subconscious. It's a combination of all of your senses. When you marry intention with emotion on anything, it goes in your subconscious. That's what they're not telling you. Okay, they tell you to marry intention with emotion. Okay, they tell you all of these things. They say, well, your body does it better than you do. Dr. Joe Dispenza says that. He says, your body does it better than you. And what he's talking about is your subconscious. But when you understand you have this power, when you understand the reason why they say the pen is mightier than the sword, this is why. The sword can only do a few things. This can do anything. This is unlimited. Okay, let me show you. Here. Okay. This expands your awareness. These are affirmations. Okay, this is not journaling. They're affirmations, and you need to do them like that every day. I know it's crazy, right? It looks crazy. I have about 12 of those in storage. But when I started learning this, I said, okay, I'm going to do 2 months because it's 66 days to form a habit in your subconscious, solidly, like firmly. So I said, okay, I'll try it. I did it for 2 months. And then I went back and looked at it. And I was like, oh my God, that happened. This happened too, that happened too. Things I was writing for, things I was wishing for, if you want to call it that. Things I was aspiring for, things I was reaching for, things I wanted to bring into my world. And I wrote it down. In the present tense, I am so happy and grateful now that, and I finished that sentence like that. Try that. It works. But it works in your subconscious. And that's why you need to do it every day. Why? Because repetition. Your subconscious learns in repetition. A belief is a thought you keep thinking. It needs to go in your subconscious as a belief. And when it goes in your subconscious as a belief, and this is why if you're not doing your affirmations, right? If you're not speaking it out loud, or say speaking the dream, or speaking in accordance with what you want instead of what you don't want, and you've been programmed by media, by movies, by comedies, by all kinds of TV shows, okay, to talk about what you don't want. Because you see it, and then you imitate it. You see it, and then you learn it. So it's not a natural thing to start speaking about things you want. It becomes natural to speak about what you don't want. Why? Because you see it all over the place. It conditions you. That's the societal hypnosis. Because you are awareness. Okay? And when your awareness goes into lack versus abundance, or let's say fear-based thinking, as opposed to abundant thinking or love-based thinking. Why is that? Because the highest vibration is love. The lowest vibration is fear. When you're speaking about what you don't want, it's a fear-based thought. It's a negative thought. What happens then? Well, if you don't stop it, in 6 seconds, your amygdala goes, hey, you know what? What if this happens about that? What if this? 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 And all the what ifs are rooted in fear. Then what happens? Then all those individual thoughts begin to branch out into other individual what ifs. And then the negative spiral begins. How does that happen? A belief is a thought you keep thinking. Okay? As you keep thinking all of these negative what ifs, from what if to 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 what if. Okay? It goes into your subconscious as a belief. Your subconscious is, oh, we're doing that? Okay. Then what happens? Then the subconscious starts making pathways to the negative what if. And it branches out in, well, maybe you can get there this way. Maybe you can get there this way. Maybe you can get there this way. Maybe you can do this way. And all of those pathways lead to more negativity. And people wonder why they're stuck. How do you get unstuck or unstuck? Affirmations, meditation, vocalization, visualization. The fastest way to break free of it is through your vocalization. Why? Because it wakes you up. It's energy, frequency, vibration, and velocity. Your voice carries frequency. That frequency triggers your neurotransmitters. What happens then? It secretes hormones. What hormones? Oxytocin and endorphins. What happens then? It floods your brain. What happens then? You start to calm. Then what? Well, we call them cycles because we don't call them treatments because we make no medical claims. But cycles of this done 1 hour once a week for 12 weeks will set you free. Do you go back to the way you were? If you allow it. Okay? But when you know the truth, when you see the truth, when you hear the truth, okay, it'll jump out at you at first, and yeah, you won't like it, but then you'll realize that you have power over it, right? Because Jesus Christ told you you do, okay? Because nothing can harm you if you connect to the God within you. Nothing can harm you. But some people are not aware. Why? Because they're believing the story. They're believing the story. They're believing the superhero. They're believing the medical industrial complex. They're believing the money in the bank. Oh, this is going to solve the problem. Money in the bank. I'm going to be happy. Oh, I'm going to be so happy. Once I get money, I will be so happy. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I know very, very wealthy people that are miserable. And I know very, very wealthy people that are happy because they know. Because not only do they have the knowledge, they apply the knowledge. There are many good, wealthy people, right? We've just been told, right? And now we're seeing a lot of, rich man's tricks out there. Okay, it was a documentary. Look it up. Watch it. Christianity teaches conditional love. Christianity teaches a lot of conditional things. Yep, you're right. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm familiar with it, so I make reference to it. But yeah, it's as an example. So I'm not here pushing Christianity. I'm here talking to you about this one. Okay? And Jesus didn't start Christianity, by the way. Okay? And he was talking about the kingdom within. Krishna talked about the kingdom within. Gautama Buddha talked about the kingdom within. And it goes further back and further back and further back and further back. They all talked about the kingdom within. Jesus was the last one 2,000 years ago. And now we're in a different age. And the reason why you're seeing all this truth is because we're in the age of Aquarius. Everything is going to be revealed. And you shall see the truth. And the truth will set you free. But first, it's going to be a little disappointing. Why? Well, because you've been raised on Prince Charming and, Cinderella, right? Which is how many men approach their relationships. They try to be the knight in shining armor on the horse. Conditioning. What does awareness do? Awareness shows you, okay, that yeah, you've seen the movie, but you realize that your strength is in here and you're not the movie. That you don't identify with the knight in shining armor on the horse, and that you see it as a cute story and not what you aspire to be, because you're independent of that. Okay, because of the God in you, or if you want to say source in you, or if you want to say Jesus Christ in you, if you want to say Allah in you, the divinity in you. So the word namaste means the divinity in me acknowledges or salutes the divinity in you. But that's what this is. You're not your body, you're not your name, you're that divinity in here. Okay, but most spiritual people that claim they're spiritual, and religious people, I'm not singling anyone out, but people that acknowledge the kingdom within, right? What do they have? Nothing. They're poor. Why? Well, it goes back to the subconscious. They haven't freed themselves in here. The subconscious is a culmination of all of your senses. So yeah, you can put on the clothes, you can do the Tibetan bowls, you can do whatever it is you do. You can read the tarot cards, you can read the Bible, you can do all those things. But if you haven't fixed your subconscious, that program, okay, that society has programmed you for, will not allow your prayers to come true, your dreams to come true, your fantasies to come true, your desires to come true, your aspirations to come true, your goals to be, a reality. Why is that? Because subconsciously, below the surface, okay, it's like an iceberg where you only see the tip of the iceberg popping out. Okay, that's your conscious mind, that's 5%. That big part underneath, okay, this is not an Illuminati sign, this is a triangle, okay? But that huge part underneath is your subconscious. That's what runs your life. That's running your life. But you're not aware, okay? So what does this awareness thing do? What is this consciousness all about? Consciousness is the field that you have. Consciousness is God. Consciousness is. If you want to call it God, universe, whatever. God is not the white man in the sky with the beard, like the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo. That's not what it is. God is not a he. God is not a she. God is in here. God is in you. God reacts in energy. Everything in the universe is energy. So the conscious mind thinks the thought, picks the target. The subconscious stores the program. Okay? So when you think the thought, then you believe the thought, right? Over and over. Repetition goes into the subconscious. Now it becomes a program. What does the subconscious do? It repeats it for you, so you don't have to. This is so cool, because you can put anything in here in repetition, and then it starts to play on its own. 95% of your life, it will just keep going. This is why when you see someone successful, they keep getting, you see that person, wow, no matter what you do, you're so good at it. Of course. They worked on this one. What does the superconscious do? It looks at what's in your subconscious and it goes, oh, you believe that. Okay, we're going to make more of that happen. And as you take the steps, the superconscious or God or consciousness opens the doors, brings the right people. You think it's a coincidence. You meet the right people. The doors open for you. You get where you're going because you're walking towards it. And you go, oh, what a coincidence. I just happened to meet this guy and he works at that place I want to work at. And he told me they have openings and I'm going to go down and apply. The superconscious speaks to you in intuition. Okay, that's the right hemisphere of your brain. And what happens then? It gives you guidance, divine guidance. The left brain is logic and dismisses it and says, nah, you're crazy. Nah. And you go down and you drive past where you got the feeling to turn, you get stuck in the traffic jam, you go, I knew I should have turned, because you did know. That happens for a lot of things. Pay attention. Okay? Attention, there's a reason why they say pay attention. It's called paying attention, because you're paying with your life. Okay? Your time is your life. When you spend time on attention, when you are in the process of being attentive to something, you're paying for it because you're spending your time doing that rather than, I don't know, following the 49ers and seeing if they're winning this weekend. Down at the bar, having a beer. Is having a beer at the bar wrong? No. Is following the 49ers wrong? No. It depends on what you want to pay attention to. And what you pay attention to eventually becomes a belief. Because a belief is a thought you keep thinking. And then what? Well, you got all this football merch. You got everything they've ever put out. You have a collection, right? Is it wrong? No. Some people have impressive collections, right? You know, my mom had a, this reminds me of my mom. My mom had a Ray Worshing helmet from the 49ers, a practice helmet, a white one, autographed, a Joe Montana autographed practice helmet, right? Guess what happened? Over the years, they gave it to her because my cousin knew them in the mainland. So they gave her these helmets, right? My dad used to show them to everybody. Everybody came over the house. Oh my God, it's a Joe Montana autographed white practice helmet, right? The inside over the years, right? This was way back. This was way back in the 90s. Over the years, the inside, the padding started to crumble. And she threw them away. And I was like, oh, Mom. And my mom was like, well, they were getting old, Okay. So anyway, I'm just saying, I understood the value. She didn't understand the value. But value is perception. Okay, there you go again. It's physical, not spiritual. It's in the physical world. These things that we place value on are in the physical world. A lot of these things that you see in the physical world are placed before you for a reason. Okay, either for entertainment or for sports or for whatever it is. None of it is wrong. Okay? None of it is wrong. There are wrong things, but I'm just saying that these things that you pay attention to are your choice. This is how you want to live. And the results that you get are the result of what you pay attention to. Because what you pay, you receive. You receive value in what you pay for. Okay, so when you pay attention to something, you will bring that into your world and that will be your value. Okay, so Jay is putting up the, Jay is putting up the things here. Okay, so it's time for us to move on. I have clients this morning, so I really got to go, but I'm going to leave you with this, okay? The kingdom is within. This is Sunday, so those of you who are Christians and going to church later on, happy Sunday, okay? And just know that the kingdom is within, but when you come from in here, when you make the changes in here, when you start working in here to affect everything out here, because everything out here reacts to everything in here, your whole life will change. You can do whatever. Put my name in any browser, any AI, and look at all the stuff, because there's tons of stuff, okay? And I could never have done any of it if I didn't change in here first. Okay, so I will leave you with that, and I will see you guys. And if you want the website, it's hereforyoulifecoaching.com. I normally don't do that. I got to get more used to doing that. So anyway, hereforyoulifecoaching.com. We'll see you guys later. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m.